Hello everybody, Rainbow Red Panda here, and today I just wanted to make a little video talking about my thoughts on Drax. From Free Comic Book Day, you saw that I picked up the first 6 issues, I read them, and I just wanted to sort of touch base. A lot of people have been asking me like what I think of the book or what I think of CM Punk as a writer, and after reading this, I can kind of give you an answer. I can say that I like the book. I will continue to read it. However, it's not my favorite title. I feel like I was maybe a little bit disappointed, but I don't really know exactly why at this point. I don't know what I would change about it necessarily, but as far as the writing and everything goes, I can't completely judge how CM Punk is as a writer because it is co-written with CM Punk and Cullen Bunn, which Cullen Bunn is one of my favorite writers already. I love all of the stuff that he's written, and you know, some of his Deadpool, like the stuff that he does with Deadpool is probably some of my favorite Deadpool. Like, he created Pandapool. Like, come on, how am I not obsessed with that? Spoiler, I am obsessed with it. And so I was really excited to see them working together because I like both of them a lot. But it doesn't, like, if it's an annual or if it's something that is written by a lot of different people, like sometimes they'll each take a page and they'll sort of like say like pages 1 through 5 were written by this person, and you know 6 through 11 were written by this other person. They don't do that with this book. So I don't know how exactly they collaborate, if like Punk takes certain characters and Bunn takes certain other characters and they work together that way, or if they do certain pages, or if they just sort of talk and say this is what should happen in this issue, and then like one of them writes it, because that is something that can happen in comics. So I'm not sure exactly what their co-writer style is, so because of that it's hard to pick out exactly what I like about like Punk's writing style as opposed to like Cullen Bunn's. I will say, and I don't really like saying this because I feel like I'm saying something is bad, like wrong with Drax, and that's not what I'm trying to say, but I will say that Punk's writing on the Thor annual last year to me was better than the writing that is in this book. I loved everything about that annual, and I wish that he wrote Thor more because it really made me want to go and read all of Thor. I don't read Thor on a regular basis, so it's not something that I usually do. But I really was interested. Like, the other 2 stories weren't the best for me, but that one has really interested me. But I think part of that was because the artist was also one of my favorite artists. And so whenever you have a book that is really, really well illustrated and really, really well written, it's like the perfect book. And I'm not saying that I don't like the art that's in this, but it's not Rob Guillory. It's just not. And so I can't like it as much as I liked Thor. That being said, I really like what they've done here. I really like the characters that they have in the book. They have Drax, obviously, and then they have Terrax, which I really like seeing Terrax again. Fin Fang Foom made an appearance in a few issues, and I thought that was really interesting. And then you have Aura, who so far has been a recurring character. So I really like I like the story, I like the characters, I like overall all of the styles. It's just not as, I guess, funny and comical. Some of the book, like in some of the credits in the back, they do kind of like questions and answers, but it's not with CM Punk or Cullen Bunn, which is weird because in the past Cullen Bunn has done that section of the book, but this time it's by a different party. And they sort of talk about, you know, how funny the book is and how humorous it is. And I do think that, but after reading Deadpool from Cullen Bunn and just reading all of the different things that you get from those books, this one isn't as comical and it's not as funny. So I can't really judge it as a humorous book because I just don't, like, there are some things that I think are funny, and I kind of do read it and try to like pick out certain things. Like, okay, so this is the first issue, and like literally, I think I've said this before, but literally like one of the first things on here is, you know, it's clobbering time. And if you know anything about CM Punk, like that was one of the things he always yelled and, you know, expressed in wrestling in his entrances. So I thought that was really cool that they included that. Another thing that I always just thought was a little weird, or comical, is, you know, he's writing Drax, and in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, like, Dave Bautista plays Drax. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and because of that, it's sort of hard for me to, I don't know, I'm trying to put as much wrestling into this book as possible, and I shouldn't do it. And I know that it's, you know, one of those things, like, you can go down that rabbit hole and you can think that, but none of it's true. But it is sort of weird for me to imagine, like, Batista saying some of the lines that, you know, CM Punk has sort of written for him. But also some of the times I find myself reading it in CM Punk's voice, which is a little weird. But there are some things that I do think are funny, but it's definitely not a Deadpool book. It's definitely not as entertaining to me as the Thor annual was. But overall, I like the series. I'm going to continue with it. And I know that in the past, like, I continue with everything, but I'm trying not to do that anymore. I'm trying to, if I start something and I don't like it, I'm not going to continue with it. So I will say that if I didn't like this book, I would just not continue with it. But I do like it, so I am going to continue with it. One of the things that I thought was interesting was some of these names are added as it goes. I think Rosenberg is one of the new ones that's on here. And then there are some other ones, like, it started off with 4 names, now there are 6 on the side of the book. And with, you know, whenever you look inside of it, now instead of saying, like, this person does the inks, this person does the coloring, this person does, like, the shading and, like, all of those, it says, like, breakdowns and finishes, which were 2 terms that I wasn't completely familiar with in the comic book world. So I had to go and text a friend who is in comics and be like, hey, what does this mean? And it's sort of like, as he explained it, breakdowns are sort of not the, like, raw sketch. It's a little bit more complicating than that. Like, it's a little bit, like, a slight bit more detail, but not completely. And then breakdowns or finishes are basically everything else. So it's not just, like, ink, it's not just, like, penciling, it's sort of like a weird combination of the two, which I had never seen before. So I'm going to be interested to see if this is something that shows up in comics from now on, or if it's just going to be this particular book, because I'm interested in it. Other than that, I do like the artwork. Like I said, you know, it's not Rob Gilroy, but I do like it. I'm going to continue reading it, and if you guys haven't read it, I would at least check out the first issue. If you have read it, let me know. Overall, I think it's a good job. It's not probably CM Punk's best work, but it could definitely be a lot worse. You know, you see celebrity type figures try and write comics and it fails miserably. So overall, for CM Punk and Cullen Bunn, it's not their best work, but I do think that it is getting stronger, and I think as they get, you know, more into it and more comfortable with it, I think it will definitely grow and be a better comic. And I do like that they have this series because, you know, Drax, I think, was sort of an overlooked character a lot of times, and they do sort of have his, I want to say, his bluntness. Like, you know, he takes things very literally. Like, if you tell him, I can't even think of an example, but, you know, he takes things word for word. Like, if you're being sarcastic or something, he doesn't really understand that. And there is a little bit of that in here. I would like to see a little bit more of that. I think having more of that would make it a funnier comic. I think that those parts in the movie were the best. And I would like to see a little bit more of that type of comedic humor in the book. I think that would make it a little bit better. But overall, I like the characters that they've added into the book. I like where the story is going, and I like everything. But it could always be better. But I like that because then there's the only place for it to go from here is up. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I don't know if I completely answered the questions, but I think I answered them as well as I could. I will try and give an update maybe every 6, or maybe after the second arc is done, I will give another update on my thoughts on the writing and how I feel about the series. But overall, I would definitely recommend it. I would definitely check it out. And if you're a fan of wrestling, it's kind of cool to think about it from both a comic and a wrestling perspective. So that's all I have. Tomorrow is new comic book day. I'm so excited. I'm gonna go to my shop and I'm just like salivating thinking about it. So I'll see you guys tomorrow with a regularly scheduled comic time. So bye everybody.